We're gonna carry on this week. Last week we most of you were doing the wave paintings that I did a demonstration piece on, and the video is now on YouTube on YouTube and on the
Yeah,
website.
you did, Jamie. We got it, thank you.
You got it in the end,
You
yeah.
put the neck and everything, yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I had trouble getting it on, but eventually I got there after a few goes. So I don't know how far you've all got with your wave pictures, but we can continue with that today. But you'll,
Sorry, interruption.
that's all right.
It started with the dolphin.
Yeah, so if you've been on the website, you'll have seen all the different photographs and things that I put on there. So I thought we'd concentrate on doing some stuff under the sea next. And some like sea creatures, perhaps with some with reflections, but a lot with these really bold, vivid colours and things as well. So I've started one of those off, which I'll show you in just a second. So if I go over to the studio wall, so if you remember the last time we were together, I was drawing this photograph, and I really liked it because of all the textures and the really strong contrasting shadows in there and everything else. So I made a drawing of that last lesson, which I'll show you in just a second. I've got just here. And what I've started to do now is apply some really strong, bold and vivid colours to it, a lot like some of the artworks that I found and are displayed now on the website. I'll try and put one on the screen in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about, what I'm working from. So the idea is that we're going to have the opportunity really to work with some really nice, vivid and bold colours by layering washes of colour on the surface of the paper first of all, and then holding the whole thing together using some tonal work and some mark making to begin with. So we'll use things such as the what we often used in the past, which is the burnt umber and ultramarine to make some really dark shadows and tones, and then start to apply some of the brighter colours back over the top to add accents and areas of interest to the picture. So we'll go over to the desk. Yeah, it works. That's good. So this was the drawing then. And you'll have seen this on the website as well that I was working on during our last lesson. And what I wanted to do was just to get something and explore the tones and shadows in this turtle and look at the different marks on these flippers. And I was going to do a bit more on the background. Perhaps I'll come back to that when I'm painting. And I used a layer or layers of graphite pencil. So I would have started with a 2B to put in all of the tones to begin with, and then started to apply softer pencils back over the top with some mark making techniques in there as well, which you can just about see at the top and around these areas here. So it's a really good subject to do. It's quite a popular one, as I've found when I've looked on the internet. There are quite a few paintings of this subject, and that's purely really I think because of the brightness of the colour and things in there. So I think my camera's now stopped and it's coming back on again. There you go. So yeah, so this subject's already got some really bright colours in, but I think it's an opportunity really to have a play around with some ideas of colours, which is why I've got all these artists' work on the website for you as well. So have a look there if you've not had the chance already. So pretty much like we did with the wave picture, and I'll zoom back out so we can see that. Pretty much like with the wave picture, I did a drawing first of all, and you see my turtle, and then I made a copy of the drawing and started to paint over the surface. So I'd got the drawing there already with all the tones and shadows and things that I could work back over. So once you've got your copy of the picture, and you can just about see my turtle, this is where you can start having a little bit of fun with the colours. So if I just move that out of the way and bring my turtle back in. there. So we've got the drawing, and I lightened the photo of my turtle. So I took a photo of it on my phone, and then emailed it to my email address, downloaded it on the computer, and then if you double click on a picture, you're able then to edit that picture as well. So you can lighten your photo, or your photo of your drawing, so it's a bit paler, so the tones and shadows aren't too prominent when you then do this, which is to paint over the top with some colours. And this is, as I said, this is where you can have a bit of fun with the colours using a transparent layers of a few different colours over the top of your picture. Okay, so once this is dry, you've then got your underpainting, or your under colour, if you like, that you can work over the top of. So this is what I've been doing today. So from there, and I did this one a little bit more with just blues. I would have liked perhaps to put some more pinks and things, but I'm going to do that with the turtle next. So as I said earlier, the thing that holds all of this picture together essentially are the tones and shadows, which I've added in using the burnt umber and ultramarine paint. So that's these ones just here. So if you remember, quite a few times now we've talked about how to get an alternative to black using just chromatic or colours that you can then apply other colours to without it becoming really dull and grey sort of thing and lifeless. So I've got these lovely blues and browns mixed together to create these really dark, deep shadows in the picture. And that's essentially what holds it all together. So the structure of the tones and shadows holds the picture together before you then start to have a play around with the colours. So you can see I've started to do that quite a lot already. So if I zoom right in to Mr. Turtle here, you can see that, yes, he's not purple and pink, but what I've done is I'm trying to just try a few alternative ideas out with this colour scheme. And in a minute, when I get a chance, I'll put on a painting where other artists have used this kind of idea of adding these extra bright and vivid colours on the top. So undercoat first of all on top of your drawing, followed by tones and shadows with the alternative black, and then adding some other colours back over the top of that. And I'll talk a bit more about that as we progress through the lesson. I just want to get an example to show everybody in a few minutes. So this was an example painting that I showed everybody during the lesson. It's a bit more of a finer painting, I suppose, than the one I really wanted to show, which was much more painterly. But if you look on the website, or indeed look on the internet, you'll find lots of paintings of turtles that use very vivid colours and things. And as you can see, I've been experimenting with using alternative colours to the photograph that you can see up there on the top left hand corner. I've used these lovely pinks and purples in there as well. So to begin with, in the evening I started to apply a few more tones and shadows using marks using the ultramarine and the burnt umber mixed together. And then I thought I really like this yellow, and in the little example of a painting you can see down the bottom there are some lovely yellows on the flipper. Although it's underneath the flipper, I still like that contrast, that orangey sort of colour to the blue, the lovely sort of marine blue in the background there. So I'm applying that yellow onto the flipper. I don't do any more of that in this evening, but here, look, I also notice on the photograph that the bottom part of the flipper was in fact, it did in fact have some shadow, so I added some blue on there as well. Now, just started to play around a little bit, really, bringing back in some of this red onto the head and into the shell of the turtle. So I'm kind of mixing things up a little bit, and even on the areas where I've already added tone and shadow, I have been adding little bits of brown and some other colours on top. And there you saw me just adding some light washes of blue. One thing that's important to do, I found with this picture, is to add tones and shadows back over the areas that I'd already painted using whites and things. So you don't want a really stark white in the picture perhaps, and you can use thin glazes of colour to add tones back over the top of the picture. So you see the painting up there on the top left hand side now. You've got these lovely shadows of green underneath the turtle's mouth just there and around the flipper. So you can add in these washes of colour back over the picture to then tone areas down but keep the detail that you put in using the whites and the really dark tones. So the next bit takes me a large part of the evening to do, and what I decided to do was gradually build up lots of layers of marks and colours from darks to lights over the whole of the shell area, and that's to try and capture some of the rich sort of texture that you can see on this shell by putting in multiple layers of marks and colours over the top. So you can see me putting in these little dashes and squiggles and lines and things. Eventually what I do is remove a lot of that turquoisey blue you can see that I originally painted on the background. So I paint over a lot of that. It does still, at the end, I do leave some areas of that showing, some very tiny sort of details, but it changes the tone or the colour of the overall shell to be towards the end. On the back of the shell, there was like a little bit, the shell seemed a bit lighter, perhaps because there's light behind the turtle, making the shell seem fainter towards the back and then more vivid towards the foreground. So I think at this point I froze, unfortunately, and have to reset the camera. So we'll just see how long that takes. So as I said, this part of the painting does take me quite a while to do, but it proves to be worth it. And even right towards the end of doing this section, I do keep adding more stipples and bits and pieces. Here we go. So we're back on. So I keep looking at where the highlights and shadows are in the whole thing, sticking mainly to the burnt umber and ultramarine for details, and then doing the same sort of thing a bit later on, as you can see me doing now, with yellows and these Venetian sort of Venetian red colours back over the top. So I'm almost reflecting, if you like, the texture and the colour that you can see in the shell already, adding perhaps a bit more yellow, and but basically layering stipples, dots, lines, dashes over the top of each other, and then the occasional glaze, and then of course the occasional opaque areas of paint as well. I know that there is still more to do on this painting, and I'll be doing a bit more of that next lesson, but you can see how things are gradually starting to appear and build up. Now, one thing I did want to do with this picture, as you're aware, is add in some more vivid colours and perhaps experiment with the colours a little bit more. So I do start to bring in, and here we go now, adding in some bolder colours, some bolder reds and stuff like that into the picture. And so you have to avoid, to a degree, not getting too precious about things once you put them in,
being brave enough just to sort of let go a bit and say, right, let's see what happens with this. So this was a calculated risk in a way, really. The colour on the shell was already Venetian red, but I've added a more bolder red back over the top of the shell as well. I felt that it needed a bit more jazzing up with the mark making, so I keep adding in stipples and dots, and I also noticed it's a bit brighter towards the back. My photo wasn't quite, it didn't show those vivid blues in the background, so this is something I plan to sort of investigate a little bit further later on. So I'm just adding in more colours back in the top of the flipper. So I added some purples on there to sort of go back over some of those darker tones, and as you can see now I'm really starting to put in some pinky purpley colours in there and some turquoises in the background, and really having fun bringing all of these marks together now. There was a little bit of the shell that I haven't done yet, just towards the front, if you spotted it, just above the head, which I need to work back into. Actually, the photo, looking at the photo now on the screen, you can see that it is much brighter than the photo that I'm actually working from. But that's fine. We'll do a bit more next week. Thank you very much.